Fantastic. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. All right, thank you. It is 6:31 p.m. on Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. This is the Scituate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting. I'm going to read the declaration that on March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which among other things extended the temporary provisions pertaining to open meeting laws, extended that to March 31st, 2025. This extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This meeting will be recorded by Scituate Community Television and can be viewed live on Scituate Community Television Facebook Live. The recorded meeting will be available the following day on Comcast Channel 9 and YouTube Scituate Community Television. I'm going to read our commitment statement that this is a safe, secure space for all people, especially people of color, and for all underrepresented people and communities. This is a place where people can bring up challenges and questions without fear. We will assume best intentions and we will treat one another with politeness and respect at all times. This committee is dedicated to these standards. We want our members and others joining our meetings to feel welcomed and respected. Okay, so with that, I would like to call the meeting to order. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Angela. And calling the roll, Ms. Dre?
Yes.
Ms. Risha?
Yes.
Ms. Gilberti?
Yes.
Ms. Sun?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Thank you. All right, so we've got two sets of minutes. One hot off the press from Kate, which I'm guessing we'll probably table the approval of those since we just got them, and I'm guessing people haven't had a chance to read them, but thank you for sending them, Kate. And Christina sent them over last week. Is there any commentary on Christina's minutes?
I just caught two minor edits where we say like shareholders or stakeholders, it should say served when we talk about MMA and Kathy's meeting. And then the builders of color, it's coalition, not commission. But that was the only two minor things I caught.
Builders of Color Coalition as opposed to commission. What are you saying? Okay. Thank you. Any other commentary? Okay, well, thank you. So I'll move to with the two edits, I will move to accept the minutes from March 20th, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, calling the roll, Ms. Dre.
Yes.
Ms. Risha.
Yes.
Ms. Gilberti.
Yes.
Ms. Sun.
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'm a yes. All right. So to the order of business, I mentioned Jamil is not going to be on, and it doesn't look like maybe Maura will join late. I'm not sure. I know we had to move the meeting a bit. Jamil did send me a note. Where is it? I'll just read what he sent over. So he just sent an update that the school district had a great visit from, and I don't know how to pronounce this. It looks like a school district in Vermont, Virginis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right at all, if anyone's familiar Vergennes, Vermont. Said they came with 5 students who shadowed 5 Scituate High School students for the day, and there were 2 staff members that Jamil hosted. So the feedback was phenomenal. And then there was Traces of the Trade and final Lit Community Conversations event. You saying final, I'm guessing final for the school year at the Scituate Library. That was probably what, a couple weeks ago? Christina, were you there?
Yeah, I think it was April 9th, maybe. I feel like it was a couple weeks ago.
Okay. I know my wife went to that and she said it was tremendous. It was really cool. I don't know if anybody else went. Said it was well attended, great pulling together of the community. It was a movie, right?
Yes, there was a movie and a discussion, and the people I believe that made the movie were there and answered questions. I think Ann Lattenville, who's the assistant director at the library and kind of partners with Jamil on a lot of the lit conversations. I believe she said there were a lot of students there, which is really nice. I know that they had a lot of people and they were very happy with the turnout, and they said the event was really great. I wish I went.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know why I didn't go, but yeah, no, my wife said it was really great. So and then he said the search process continues for our next assistant superintendent. Which I'll be honest, I didn't even know that we were looking for an assistant superintendent. I guess I should probably know that, but yeah, apparently we are. So that's all I've got from Jamil. I'm sure he's probably hard at work already, probably planning the Juneteenth celebration and so forth. Because I know he puts a lot of work into that, and that's less than 2 months out. Nothing from Maura, although we talked about it. Actually, before we go much further, we need to make sure who's doing the minutes for the next one. I'm looking at it. Might be you, Celia.
Okay.
Just looking at the alphabet here.
Oh, shoot. Okay, I'll go back and watch the votes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you'll have the video, and Seth does have the Zoom IQ on, so you'll get the summary as well, which is pretty cool. All right. Let's see. I'm not gonna pretend to play Maura's role, but there is the special town meeting. Does everybody know that? On Monday for the school. So that's for the new Hathaway school. And I believe what happens is if it passes the town meeting, it's actually going to go to a ballot. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's how that one's going to work. So.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard. And I also heard that, which I thought was great, especially from a DEI perspective, that they're going to be providing childcare on site. Did anyone else hear about that? Because I think that is a big barrier for families, right? If you're to be able to attend those. And so, but I don't know details of like if you have to pre-register for childcare, if you can just show up with your kids. But I did hear that, and I thought that was great. So I did want to find out more detail regarding that, though.
They are doing that. There was a peach jar that went out, from the schools. I don't have details on it, but I'm sure probably a quick Google search would probably turn that up. I know they've done that in the past. They had to do that for the I want to say it was the Gates. Anytime there's a school vote, right? That's when everybody shows up, right? So I think for the Gates one, that was a pretty down and dirty one. So, and the whole town showed up basically. So, and I forget exactly. There was like overflow into like the auditorium and all that type of stuff. So, I'm pretty sure that's what went on. So, but no, thanks for bringing that up. What else? The other thing I would bring up, and this came up in the meeting last month, where Maura had said that Karen Canfield is working through, and Bobby, you probably know about this, or maybe you don't, HR policies and procedures and select board policies and all that type of stuff. And Karen had asked if we were willing to talk to her to make sure that they were looking at things through a DEI lens. So Karen and I have traded some emails. We actually traded some emails today. I think I'm probably going to be talking to her on Friday. I'm not going to be providing recommendations to Karen. I just want to assess like what the scope is of what they're looking for. And then I'll revert back to our committee to see if it makes sense for us to get involved, even if it's just a review or of what they're looking at. Yeah, I don't know many of the specifics there, but it's always good to talk to Karen.
I think it's actually the select board policies. So there's some policies that are specific to the select board that they've actually kind of developed over years. And we're going back, probably decades. And so I think that one of the tasks before them was to kind of review that and see what was particularly relevant still and what may be, covered from also other aspects of even town policy, for instance. There's a few that they had me review that were kind of related to sort of personnel matters. Nothing that's sort of that sticks out that I recall that kind of had a particularly sort of DEI sort of perspective, but that's really the process that we're working through right now.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I had sent her a note, and then we both got busy with other things. We got back and forth again over the last couple of days, and I'm guessing we're going to be able to talk on Friday. We haven't completely firmed that up, but like I said, I'll probably just have a quick discussion with her, get a better handle on what they're looking for and what the scope is and how much work it's going to be and so forth. It's Karen and Lorraine Devon that are working on that. So what else? Celia, you want to discuss, I think most of us probably got the email, but the drinking water email letter, it was a letter.
A letter, sure. Let me pull it up. Yeah, so we got in the mail just a printed one pager from the Scituate Water Division. Just again, it was labeled important information about your drinking water, and contained very important information about the containment of the water, certain levels. And it again said at the top, this report contains important information about your drinking water. Please translate it or speak with someone who understands it, or ask the contact listed below for a translation. So in lieu of also including that phrase in one or two other languages, so because someone who speaks, let's say, Portuguese can't read that they need it translated in English. And when this letter went out also, I think 2 years ago now was the last time I think I received it. It was a big flag for me because I was using water for my child's formula. And so this is obviously an important notice. And so when we were thinking through before Kathy was hired to do communications, given the limited capacity of a person, the limited budget, there are certain things that should take precedent when we talk about translation. And we discussed them at the last meeting, I forget, but we said, they should be anything related to public health, public safety, or there was one other thing, crises, whatever. And so this obviously is a big public health notice that should have had the translation. So it just reminded me that maybe we need to move faster on this. I think we need to follow up with both Kathy, and then Bob had set up a meeting anyway next week with Kevin Cafferty from DPW, which I believe oversees the water division. So we can mention it to him live in person then. Because I really think it's a simple, very cost-effective edit for notices like this.
Okay.
Do we know if this notice was ultimately posted on the town website? In a manner in which it could be translated through the Google Translate function?
I didn't look, but I think that was a good solution you offered, Bob, like
Right,
even
right.
to offer that. I know I get every town email, so I know it didn't go out via email.
Right. So, and we had this conversation however long ago that was, and I think this is the sort of the perfect example of where we should be looking to utilize this. And I think that the one issue concern that we had previously is that a lot of the notices that are on the town website are actually just, they're just PDFs that are just attachments. And that's not something that can be translated. So I had a conversation a while ago, just as even in response to that previous water notice that had gone out. I had a conversation with some of the people who put the content out there about actually making sure that what we do is cut and paste, and actually, particularly an important notice like this, cut and paste and actually put that on the website so that we could use that Google Translate function. And then again, back to the point that you had made, Celia, that I think when the physical notices are mailed out, we should have, I think we identified 3 most common languages. Some type of like a common verbiage that we could use for all of them, to just like direct them to the town website, direct them to Google Translate. It's really not, overly complicated for us to do it. And I think that we've had some conversations, and I just think we just maybe need to formalize it a little bit, like make sure that a system in place that ensures that it happens, and we don't have this occur again.
I don't see it on the website. I just did a quick look. You said
Yeah.
Facebook, right?
Yeah, I don't see it on the website either. I've been
On
looking around.
on the town website?
Yeah.
No, it's not on
Well,
there.
not the town web. I looked at Facebook, but the town, I mean,
I looked on the town. I'm looking on the town website right now. I don't immediately see it yet. It's not to say it's not there, but I don't obviously see it.
Yeah, I mean, the town website would be where the Google Translate is too, but again, even if it is there, it probably would have just been a PDF. So, but I think it's a great subject of conversation for Monday when we meet with DPW. Because I think a lot of, I have to assume that a lot of the notices are probably coming from DPW. I mean, certainly the last one was from the water department as well.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it was on the town website, I mean, that's all well and good, but who's periodically going to the town website? Nobody.
Yeah. So if the notice can direct them there,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
right.
I mean, that would be a step in the right direction, certainly. All right.
Was there an email notice with this, or was it just the notice in the mail? There was no email notification, correct?
I don't think
No,
so.
and that's another thing. I mean, should be, right?
Important, shouldn't it go out via email? I mean, that's more direct, and then you have the access to do the translate on the website. It just seems to me sending it by mail when it's important isn't the most, efficient or fastest way to get the communication.
Especially if you really read it, because it's a little alarming. There's certain aspects of it, I don't know. It's like there's nothing to see here. They need to send it, but like you keep reading it, and it's like, all right.
Well, I do think if we make a recommendation to Kathy and to DPW, I do think we need both the snail mail and electronic, because some people only do snail mail. We have to remember that, or
Yeah.
certain populations. So I think it's the both. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't do both,
Yeah.
in my opinion. All right, well, so that does touch on, the topics that we do have some meetings in the process being scheduled. So DPW is Monday
Mhm.
from 10 to 11:30. Bob, Celia, and Christina are going to that. I was going to try, but I can't. It's going to be really hard for me to make that meeting. I have a standing 11 o'clock meeting that I can't miss. So if others want to raise their hand and jump in on that, we're a couple less than a quorum. So if people can, I know it's short notice, but if people can make it, just ping Bob and let him know, and he'll add you to the invite. The other is Scituate Police Department. We're kicking around May 7th or May 8th, I think, Bob.
I think we have May 8th confirmed,
May 8th.
right? That's what we have. I have Angela and Tom. I think we actually, so it's Angela, Tom, and myself, Elena. I don't think is going to be able to make it, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do have that in my calendar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 9 a.m.
Yep.
I didn't have the time. Is it 9? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have-
that's 9 to 10:30. So that's another one. If people can do that, we've got room for one or two more. If people want to just go and be a fly on the wall or participate or whatever you want to do, just ping Bob or myself.
I mean, and with both of those, I can probably set it up so people can call in through Zoom if we want to do that. I don't know if that'll be particularly helpful for you, Tom, for Monday's meeting. Would you be able to attend if I
could do the first hour.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll be in Boston, but yeah, that's no problem. I mean,
Okay. All right, maybe I'll
on
do
Zoom or
that.
Teams all day anyways. I don't even know
Okay.
why I go into Boston, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, that'd be great if you could set that up.
Okay.
All right. What else do we have? We did talk last meeting. We've talked about it, off and on. I know there's differing thoughts on this, but Carrie did start working on and just put together a quick draft, just kind of just pulling the thread a little bit more on inequity audit. All right. And I know that's a lot of that is what, we are here to do, but I personally am still intrigued by it. What it would look like, what the scope would look like, what would it cost, how could we get it paid for, and so forth. So Carrie sent me something 2 weeks ago. It took me 2 weeks to reply to her, and I'm sorry. But I think it's a really good start. And I'm definitely interested in hearing thoughts about it. I know you haven't seen the document, but I kind of just want to follow it to its natural conclusion, whether it's we continue going down this road or we just say it's too rich for our blood. It's what have you. So I don't know if there's any additional thoughts on that. It would be similar. I don't want to say it would be similar to what, or maybe it would be. I mean, just to refresh when the Scituate school department did it, they paid, I want to say it was like $49,000, I think is what they paid. I think that's what Jamil told me. And I mean, that was a pretty comprehensive document that they released. It was like 100 slides or something like that. And it was pretty thorough. And I've also, several months ago, well, 3 or 4 months ago, I had a couple of conversations with Lauren Vitale. A few of you might know her from various town functions. Her day job is she does compensation audits. I've talked about that in this meeting. I've talked to Bob about it. So there's a lot of different. I think what I would like to do, and this is some of the research that Carrie's already done, is she's got a list of a number of towns that kind of sort of look like us. The Beverlys and Westwoods, and I mean, Newton's a lot bigger than us, but Arlington, Salem, and there's probably other towns that have done equity audits. It might make sense to have a couple of conversations and just see what their you know, what that looked like for them, and, you know, whether it helped them, what were the next steps, what was their experience?
Yeah, happy to chime in, Tom. So, and I'm also happy to share that document with anyone else too. Basically, my goal was to sort of scope this out. I have no previous experience like doing an equity audit or really exactly what it entails. And so I was also just curious for myself. I think, you know, the thing that really struck me was just the amount of data that it would provide. So I think, you know, we talked at our last meeting about like how would it really change what we're doing. We sort of know what needs to be done and we just need to be more like doers, right? But what's interesting about an audit would just be the data that it would provide to kind of back up why we're doing what we're doing and, you know, hopefully give some more validity to that. Yeah, there are several towns, of course, in Massachusetts that have done it. Interestingly, Salem did it recently and they did receive a grant through the state. And so, you know, that information is listed on their website. And I think that would also, I would agree, Tom, like felt like probably a natural next step would be like just reach out to their, so they have a town DEI director in a paid position who took ownership of the audit. I mean, that's another thing to consider is it would be a lot of work, I think, to actually, you know, pursue doing it. And they had a, you know, a paid position fully dedicated to that. So that's a different situation, but to actually talk with them and exactly as you said, sort of find out what was helpful, how did it help you, what did you learn, you know, just to kind of start getting sort of more intuition around that. Those were kind of the big take homes for me. I mean, it seems like there's, you know, tons of consulting firms out there that do this. Certainly also talking with folks in the school who did it through the school system, you know, would make a lot of sense too. So I found it interesting. I think there's probably still a lot more to explore. But yeah, just kind of that really providing that data and then being able to sort of lead everything that we're doing with the data struck me as pretty interesting.
Great.
I haven't seen the school department audit, but I assume that that's sort of related to curriculum. Is that like the focus of the school's equity audit, or was it related to compensation for school? Like, what was the scope of the audit? I mean, there's so many different sort of approaches, I think, to it. I'm just wondering what the school department had done first, and then maybe Salem, what their focus was as well.
Give me a second and I'll pull it up. Because it was made public. I don't actually think they went too deep on curriculum, to be honest.
Yeah, as you're pulling it up, the things I remember that stuck out were they, you know, basic demographic facts, what percent of the students in the school are students of color, like broken down by race, and then like they looked at percentage of students on forgetting the word for plans, IEPs, and, you know, are they disproportionately students of color from disadvantaged backgrounds? That was one of the main things. And they did a lot of if I remember correctly, there was a lot of qualitative information in there, interviews with families and students to see sort of their thoughts around diversity in the school. And those were very enlightening if you do read it, I will say.
Pretty dense, so just bear with me.
I do agree that it would be great to connect with another town. Maybe if you're connecting with, let's say, two of the few that have done it, one that had someone in the DEI director position and one that didn't, because we don't have one with the town other than Jamil. So how would we manage it? I think that would be great to learn from them.
Yeah. All right, can you guys see this?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
like I said, 108 slides, so and I'm not familiar with all of it. I did go through it several months ago. Yeah, this was like February 2023. So let's see. So you can see findings and recommendations, right? So you can see the 5 bullets there. There were surveys that went out. to all parents. I don't know how many people filled it out. I know we did, but I think you probably had to have a kid in the school system to receive it, if I recall. So it kind of just takes you through what is it. If you guys, I'm not going to go through all the slides, but stop me if you see something. Here's the scope of what they talked about. Yeah, see, I don't see a lot in here, and like I said, I don't recall a lot on curriculum. This is what we already kind of know. Our diverse little town. So, I mean, they did make recommendations, and I don't know how many of these have been enacted or how, Superintendent Burkhead, Jamil, the various principals and so forth, because it was across all of Scituate Public Schools. It wasn't just the high school. I am going to fast forward because I do remember, not to get everybody fired up, but there were some pretty tough, like you can see some of these quotes, right? That they, the people talking about a vocal minority, statements from parents that DEI work is taking time away from discussing issues with kids.
Yeah, these were
BIPOC students self-segregating, therefore it's not the district's problem. So I mean, yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that in here, which was pretty tough. I'm happy to send this to you guys if you want to see it. So, all right, I'll send it along.
There was also, I remember, a condensed presentation that they shared at one of the school committee meetings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember
Yeah.
the slide distinctly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they probably got, executive summaries and so forth. Because
Yeah.
like I said before, this was 108 slides and there's a lot in here. So they did a lot of work. I know the organization that did this, and I think you put it in your document, Carrie, I think it was the Public Consulting Group. I don't think they do municipalities. I think they're mainly education and a couple other kind of, I'll call them industries, but target groups.
I think maybe another next step is taking a look at the school audit and to see what categories, for example, like I remember like policies. Well, like, for example, that translates into like the select board policies that you're going to talk to like Kathy and Lorraine about, Tom. So like there was training in there around bias. Bob, has already embarked on a lot of that for town staff. So what are some of the buckets that we've already sort of started to address, and then what's missing, just so we can focus it if it is inevitably what we do recommend? Because I do feel like some of it has been done or underway too. And I feel like that's where I'm getting personally stuck.
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, there's no sense duplicating efforts, right?
Yeah.
I'd be more interested in, oh, geez, we didn't think of these
Yeah.
5 things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That could fill our coffers with things for us to do, or go straight to the town and work with Bob or what have you, So, I mean, the fact that we've already, I'd like to think that we've checked some boxes in Scituate, right? We want to do more than check boxes, so don't take that the wrong way. But just the fact that we have this committee, we have Jamil, So there are some positive things certainly,
Yeah.
that's what's done, but
I think that feels like a good way to approach it, Celia, because I feel like we could, if we have a really solid internal understanding of how we want to focus it, that would probably guide who we would want to hire. Because it seemed to me that all of these different consulting groups have a different style. Like for example, like the one that did the town of Arlington, I just remember they said they like relied very heavily on interviews. And so they would come to the town and actively try to find where members of like underserved communities are living, and then like go talk to people and like conduct these interviews and like find out what their needs are. And so, you know, if that's something that we feel like that's where we could use some help, but we're doing fine in like X, Y, and Z area, then we could try to focus like who we hire. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting about considering a school equity audit is, you know, I mean, what ultimately is the school's goal? And it's to, you know, provide education to students, whereas the town's goal is, I guess, ultimately to provide service to residents, right? And so, I mean, I think there's going to be some parallels. I think there's some things that we probably could look at that and take away, but I think there's going to be aspects of it that are going to be very difficult. I mean, I think it was probably, I think the biggest challenge that that we face is that the school, the one thing about the school that they have an advantage of almost this captive audience in terms of like, they have the students that they can talk to, they have parents, they have a way to sort of communicate to all of them. We've talked about this at length. We have 18,000 residents that are very difficult to sort of just, you know, universally like communicate to. And we know that there's populations within the community that we want to be able to kind of, you know, to speak to and sort of get feedback from. And we're having difficulty even identifying what those populations are. So I think, you know, I think the challenge for us as a town is more significant than I think the school department. I think they have some advantages just by virtue of the structure of a school department. That's why I think it would be really interesting to hear what some of the towns have done. Like you, and I think you said Salem, you know, what was their focus? Was it related to town services? I mean, is that what they were really looking at? And how, you know, and how did they reach those populations? How did they reach the residents? And I you know, and I think that's a real challenge to do that. I mean, I love the idea of doing it. It's just, you know, it just seems daunting to me to some extent, you know. But I guess it would be really, for me anyways, it would be really interesting to see how some of the towns did it as opposed to even like how the schools had done it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the more we're talking about this, and I mean, it was Carrie's next step anyways. Talking to a couple of towns just seems like just a no-brainer as a next step. And like what you were just saying, Bob, it was kind of chuckling. I mean, talking about a captive audience as compared to the town. I mean, we have 18,000 residents, like you said, and there are some of the town meetings. We're lucky if we have 100 people in the gym. You know, so I don't go to all of them either. So I'm not sitting here saying, hey, I'm one of the 100, because sometimes I'm not.
You know, and some of the populations that we want to reach are sort of those disenfranchised populations that are that much more difficult, you know, to access. I mean, they may not be the same ones that are regularly coming to town meeting or, you know, getting all the town emails, or, you know, so we may not even, you know many of them exist, have a need. I mean, that's the whole problem. That's the essence of the, you know, the bottom line. That's the obstacle that we're faced with.
Yeah, no doubt.
So maybe a different but related idea, because I do think, going back to what you said, Bob, like the whole point here is like how we measure access to services. If we go back to that presentation we reviewed at the last meeting from the Mass Municipal Association, it was like, are the town's services being equitably distributed? Is everyone accessing them? Do they know about them? So that is essentially what we're trying to audit and measure. So is it better for us to even, like, let's say the recommendation would be to hire a firm that would almost do the data we would want would be from each department, because each department would also measure it differently because they provide different services, sort of like by nature of their work, who are you serving, like to get data that way. So it's almost like a tracking system for each department for them to measure, because what I would want to know is year over year change. Like we have the data, so what? So now, X department is making this change. So, okay, did they serve people in a different community? Did like those numbers go up? Because otherwise there's no point to it if there's no recommendation then change year over year. So I think the funding has to not only be for the initial phase, but it would also have to be for follow-up, because that's how you convince the board or a funder externally to continue to put money behind it. So I think we need to think about it longer term too. And it may be something very specific to each department that we have somebody create. I don't know.
Yeah, I think those are questions we can ask the other towns when we get those meetings. Okay, so you received a report, you loved it, you thought it was okay, it didn't do anything. Okay, well then, what did you do with it? What did that cost? What's
Yeah.
is it a town meeting situation? Is the city with a mayor? I mean, like, there's a lot of questions that we're gonna have to ask.
And also I go back to when we first formed and we sent that original survey to all the department heads. And
Yeah.
we're asking all the department heads about what services they provide. Are they groups of people that they're not accessing? And I mean, is there anything you can do to make sure that you do that? And I think one of the reasons we were asking those questions is we were wanting to kind of, sort of plant that seed and create a situation or a culture almost in which I think department heads or service providers are thinking from that perspective, right? And that, and so that's part of it too, is that I think, and maybe that's something that we do that in part through these meetings that we're having with individual groups. But I'll give you one example where the senior center is, I mean, it's a great facility, right? And they have the lunches there, and people come and they play pickleball and they go to lunch, and you see the same people all the time, and it's like it's become almost like a country club, right? And not, I mean, I'm not disparaging any, I mean, it's great, right? It's a great service, right?
Yeah.
But in a way, I mean, you kind of look at the way it's playing out. They have a little like cafe, and people go and they meet. But then some of the staff were talking about the fact that there's a lot of people who are homebound, seniors who are homebound, who don't access the senior center because it's difficult for them to do. And I give a lot of credit to Linda and a few of her staff who really recognize that. And the transportation coordinator, who used to just do trips at Stop and Shop, is now trying to identify residents who like can't get to the senior center and trying to draw them out. Some of them are reluctant to do it. They have their own, reasons they don't want to do that. So that's where the outreach coordinator is meeting them in the community. So we've created this great senior center, but in doing that, we've actually, it's created a situation in which the people who don't have access, right, who are the people that we're concerned about, are almost like left, by the wayside. So I give the senior center a lot of credit for like recognizing that, and that's what I mean when I talk about like a department really thinking that way, like, approaching the work that way, thinking about like, who am I not reaching, and then taking the steps to do it. So I think one of our goals, and I think maybe an audit helps us to identify that, right, where it exists. But then one of our goals too is just working with sort of the different departments and make sure they think of their work that way, Senior center is an easy one because it's like, there's a, you can see it. It's more difficult with some other departments,
I agree. I know early on in our committee, we talked about community outreach. So to Celia's point and to what Kerry's, going to do, reaching out to these communities that have done the audits, I think it's great to understand from the departments, how they, did the outreach. And it's also important, though, to get the perspective of the actual community, because the managers in the departments might have their perception. We're doing a great job. We do this, and that. But if you actually go to the people in the community, they may have a different perception. And I agree, Bob, the senior center is a wonderful facility. And I know in the sister city, we have done things at the senior center and brought some of the older Cape Verdean community that have never gone to the senior center. And we're, telling them, you have, so much available to you, whether you speak, fluent English or not, it's still as a, community member, you should be utilizing these services. So I think it's important that we go back and figure out how we can do this community outreach ourselves. Is it door to door? I know with, to the older population, they love face-to-face visits. I found in our community, if we're doing an event, we actually have a list of elderly folks, and we have a committee members that will go and hand deliver the flyer and talk to them to get them more engaged in participating. But I think it's important that we do find a way how we can best do, a community outreach to get the actual, feedback from, the residents.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised, if and when we talk to these other towns and so forth, that I'd be surprised if they didn't start with a survey where they tried to target X percentage. And you're not going to get everybody, obviously, but even if you got, 5% is 900 people, right? Hopefully you do better than 5%, but I'd be curious. We could probably even ask Jamil. I don't even know. Like, if you send out like a mass survey or something, first of all, you're not going to get. It's the same thing we talked about when we talked about the town website, right? How many people subscribe to it in the town, right? It's not everybody. It's several thousand people, but it's not half. So I'd be curious. The school department, not only are they captive with the students that are there, they've got every single parent's email address. And I'm now, my question for Jamil is, well, how many people responded to that survey? I don't know. But no, all good stuff. I didn't have anything else on the agenda. Does anybody, have I missed anything that anyone has sent me, or? It sounds like we've got a nice chunk of to-dos, which is good. We've got 2 or 3 meetings imminently scheduled, and Carrie, hopefully you and I can talk, and we'll flesh out what next steps look like for us.
Yeah, that sounds good. We can connect on that. And then I think if the plan is to move forward with trying to talk to at least, 1 or 2 other towns, it'd probably be good in advance of that for whoever wouldn't join that discussion to, like, if we kind of all collectively pool questions that we would want to know so that we can make sure we're kind of asking the right things. That would probably be helpful. But yeah, we can definitely connect and figure out the next steps.
Yeah, so if people have thoughts on that, just email Carrie and myself on the equity audit stuff. So, all right, cool. Let's
Just
see. Yeah,
to flag that I was driving down 3A and I noticed on the Sister City sign, like the one where you like make the left to get to like North Scituate Station. Now our newest Sister City is on there, and I hadn't noticed it before, so it's been added. Anyway, I just wanted to flag it in
Oh, I
case
didn't know
you
that.
notice it, but I
Yeah.
definitely saw it and smiled and like almost texted Angela. And
Actually, it's been out there since the fall.
so, yeah, and I just noticed it like this week.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I had noticed that too. Yeah, it's great.
I'm oblivious. All right, I'll be looking for it.
Can I ask a question related to that? So I went on the website today to find the sister cities on our website, and I didn't see all 3 listed, but I may have not been searching in the right way.
Yeah, they're all 3 are listed on the town website. Yes, they're all 3 listed. Some
Okay.
have like West Cork first, and some may have, I'll see how they're listed because they should be, I think, in order, just if you're looking for them. And that's something
Okay.
that, we can change, but yeah, all 3 are listed out there.
Okay.
And follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
I'll tell my wife too. I try to stay off those platforms. All right. I still need to work through the next few meetings and so forth. I mean, let's just assume that they are what they are in the agenda meeting. So May 21st would be the next one. So unless you hear from me But let me look into that. I gotta make sure it's posted on the town website and so forth, and make sure that we don't have conflicts with select board and all that good stuff. So just bear with me on that. Does anybody have anything else? All right, so I will call for the meeting to be adjourned. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, calling the roll, Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Risha,
Yes.
Ms. Sun, Ms. Swope.
Yes.
She is frozen. Ms. Gilbert,
Yes.
and I am a yes. All right, it is 7:21 and the meeting is officially adjourned.